so much for staying on. I am Pius Kojobaka, and looking at our stories. President-elect John Dramani Mahama has revealed that his administration will look at privatizing aspects of the Electricity Company of Ghana's operations. This will target the distribution and revenue end of the company. The president-elect disclosed this in an interview with Global South World News Network.
What we need to do very quickly is to work on the distribution end, that is the Electricity Company of Ghana. They are incurring 32% technical and commercial losses. I don't know any electricity company that can survive with 32% losses. I mean, and 2 years ago they incurred a debt of they made a loss of 10 billion. Last year, I think they made a loss of about 6 billion. It cannot continue, it has to stop. And so one, we have to privatize the distribution and bring some private sector efficiency into the distribution end. It was being done under the Millennium Challenge Compact, but this government came and messed it up because of issues to do with corruption. The president's family were arguing with the shareholders on how to, distribute the shares, and it became a scandal, and America withdrew the $190 million. And so we're going to see if we can work with the U.S. to restore that money so that we can bring in private sector participation in that end. But aside from that, even with the current revenues that are collected, we want to see that they are handled more transparently, because before we left office, we set up what we call a cash waterfall mechanism. And so all the monies that ECG collects, is distributed according to certain proportions to all the independent power producers. This government came and has messed the whole cash waterfall mechanism out, because they're interested in importing crude oil, because somebody makes a margin on crude oil imports. And so they make ECG pay for the crude oil directly so that they can get their commissions instead of paying the independent power producers.
All right, so we want to assess the feasibility of this promise by President-elect John Dramani Mahama when he, of course, made that pronouncement on Global South World News Network. Now, joining us via Zoom is energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Suleimana to help us appreciate all of these. Thanks so much, sir, for agreeing to speak to us here on Business Live. First off, do you think that privatizing aspects of ECG's operations is feasible, looking at how difficult it's been for successive governments to do so?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening to you, Pius, and to your cherished listeners and viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Indeed, that is highly feasible, if I may put it that way. And I must say, I'm impressed with the depth of, knowledge that our president is having with respect to the sector. I'm so impressed about that. I must put that on record. Yes, I'm saying that it is feasible, very much feasible, because it was something that should have been done long period of time. I don't know why we waited for this long. If you look at the power structure adjustment that was put forward by World Bank when they recommended the distribution, when they recommended the generation distribution aspect to be privatized, we were able to do that with the generation side, Pius. And if you look at the generation side, you notice that over the period, it's just until recent time that we had these problems because we had gone to sleep, thinking that we had excess capacity here and there, then we are caught again, we are caught again with this problem of erratic power supply periodically. Yes, so I think it is feasible. And why it is very crucial is the fact that if you look at the distribution aspect of the value chain, it is a cash conduit of the trade. I've always mentioned that if you don't get the distribution right, you can be sure that generation and transmission are going to find it difficult. And what is the aspect of the distribution that requires to be given so much attention? I think the president mentioned some aspect of it, and I've also agreed so much to that. I was saying that it is not good for us to give the entitled ECG to a private sector. ECG is a huge body. Now we have to look at the problem areas, and if you look at where the problem areas, I think we know them. It's the revenue collection. So I have recommended several that even if you don't want to privatize the entire ECG, which I will not recommend, but the aspect of the revenue collection, it can easily be done. If you privatize that, Pius, what will happen is that government stay away, get a very efficient player with a proven track record, and give the person deliverables. That is easy. KPIs. I need so and so. And I can tell you, ECG is very profitable as long as we can put our ass together and get a serious person to partner with the establishment to do the right job. And the reason why it is very good, because if you get a private sector player, there's going to be efficiency. And this kind of losses that we are talking about, the technical losses and the technical losses and the commercial losses, if you lump them together, the root is the commercial losses. If you're able to tackle the commercial losses, I can tell you that most of the technical losses could be solved. I can say 90% of the technical losses could be solved. Because these technical losses, they are traced to commercial losses. We really don't have that money to buy a smart meters that can help recover. I've also advocated and further argued that most of the losses that we have is through the metering system. The metering system is a huge sink, a financial sink for ECG. So if you manage to curb our revenue leakages drastically by involving a proven track record and efficient private sector player, I think even the idea of IPPs going on strike because of money not coming, we may be able to solve that before we look at holistically. So I think it is very feasible, and the high time we embark on that, the better, in order to introduce efficiency and to revitalize our revenue generation. Pius.
And you think that is going to be the game changer for the company's woes, right?
Definitely, Pius. It will be a huge game changer. And I'm saying that to be a huge game changer because a lot of it has to do with the inefficiencies. And usually what private sector does is business as usual. So ECG cannot be run with the status quo that we have now. We can't do the same thing all the time and expect a different result. That cannot happen. So it could be a game changer, and potentially it is a game changer simply because if it involves a private sector and we are able to give out the KPIs and the private sector is able to meet that, we're going to have a lot of money coming in. And I will say that ECG has a lot of money. It's just because of the losses. Right. Then we come back to the cash waterfall mechanism, which the president mentioned, which is very critical. See, there is one thing collecting a minimal amount of money, but the ability to be to distribute it equitable to all the players that are involved is crucial. If you don't do that, and these players know that X amount is collected, but they are not able to get the amount that is required. That is required of them, or they are not able to get the amount that is supposed to be given to them based on the cash waterfall mechanism. So these are, I think, quick fixes that the incoming administration can do. We don't need anything to let the cash waterfall mechanism work. It is just the willpower. So as long as we have the willpower, I think it is doable, Pius.
And in a minute, the President-elect mentioned about 32% loss of ECG. All things being equal, if it does happen that, well, the President is able to carry out this privatization of ECG, how do we make up for that shortfall, or by what margin do you think that the 32% can reduce?
I think it will, if I tell it will go down by more than 50%. Because see, most of these losses, like I explained earlier, if you look at even the technical losses that we have, it's because of the financial wherewithal of ECG. I mean, the financial, problems with ECG. So I can say that it will be more than 50%. And this loss, if you can reduce it more than 50%, you can imagine the kind of money that we're going to make. So I think it's feasible once we are able to put our foot on the ground, get a private sector and learn our lessons. Very important, because a lot of things that have come over the table and they've gone into the fizzle out. If we learn our lessons, whatever made PDS not to work, if we learn our lessons and we don't go back to get a private sector who will not be parasitic in the system, but be a symbiotic and a very business-focused private sector, I think we're going to have a game-changing institution. I will put on record that ECG is a money-making place if we put our ass together. Yeah.
Energy advocate for the year 2024. We appreciate your time, Dr. Yusuf Suleiman. And thanks so much for speaking to us here on Business Live. We want to stay along on this because former CEO of Dalex Finance, Kenneth Thompson, is calling on President-elect John Dramani Mahama not to relent on his promise of scrapping some nuisance taxes that are currently burdening the business community. According to him, the business community will play a critical role in enhancing economic growth, hence the need for a conducive working environment. He spoke earlier on the marketplace.
The only salvation for this country in terms of growth and development is the private sector. Even communist China is a private sector. The private sector must be allowed to work. I remember when They came up with NAPCO, CAPCO, all those. It's not going to work. You know, the private sector is the only sector that can make this country work. Nuisance taxes, the judiciary system. I mean, there's another one that was the nuisance taxes, judiciary system, regulations. They all frustrate business. And, you know, the government must be careful not to set itself to fail. There is some low-hanging fruit that must deal with. And, you know, it must deal with. And then see about how it can provide critical infrastructure, power, water, roads, and let the private sector work. This is the only way this country will survive. I mean, how many times should we say this? How long I'm going to say this? Is the private sector, which is the engine of growth. So the government must be careful not to set itself to fail and must remember that it's carrying the aspirations of millions of people. It's the private sector. There's no other sector that will make this country work. It's the private sector.
Kenneth Thompson in that interaction with my colleague Darrell Kwao earlier on the marketplace. And what a better time to bring in the business community now. President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng.
A very peaceful election in the country. You know, businesses thrive on peaceful environment. And it also gives positive indication to the business, the investor confidence to the business community. So it's very important that we have this and we should cherish it. Our major expectation is the stability and sustainability of the local currency. That will trickle down on inflation and interest rate. That will create the enabling environment for the private sector, which is the engine of growth, as the dealers man was talking about. So we are the engine of growth, and anything that will propel this engine it will ensure the growth that we all seek to enhance our productivity of state that will bring prosperity for all of us. So it's very important that we work on the stability of our local currency, bring down inflation, bring down interest rate, and this is the enabling environment that businesses need. And so we also have to streamline the tax system. It's very important that we streamline the tax system. It is all about simplifying the tax system and making it affordable. That's all that we seek as businesses, and then also tone down or reduce the number of taxes in the country, especially that at the port. So this, what we are able to do, will ensure compliance. That is going to be the key for the enhancement of government generation of revenue.
Dr. Obeng, you would agree with me that, well, you also have a greater role to play by ensuring that you cooperate and, of course, ensure that it succeeds in creating a conducive business climate for the business community, right?
So we are not going to leave everything for the president-elect and then the government. It is about all of us. We all have to come on board. And that's what I was coming to. My next point is constant stakeholder engagement. Any government that listens to its stakeholders always succeed. And they should try this. If you're able to listen constantly, build consensus with stakeholders, and not imposing anything from just a few technocrats on the stakeholders, they will see that they will be able to make it. And so, yeah, the government will succeed. And we all have to be on board to help it succeed. Because if the country succeed, it will help all of us. If we have the necessary growth, it will also help all of us. So the honors lie on all of us. And then we also expect the ministers to be elected and to be selected to have open door policy, so that we can all have the opportunity to also bring our bit to the burden of the nation.
Very well. Thank you so much, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng. We appreciate your time, sir. You're still watching Business Life. We have more stories for you after this break. Hello, welcome back again. Now, we want to touch on one of Ghana's commodity, cocoa. And of course, prices of that commodity have soared to nearly $10,000 per ton in 2024, driven by severe crop shortages in Ghana and Ivory Coast, the world's largest producers. As the global market grapples with a projected deficit of 475,000 tons, Ghanaian farmers see higher price guarantees but struggle with rising production costs, climate change, and systematic inefficiencies. Winston Taki has more.
Cocoa prices have reached unprecedented heights in 2024, driven by persistent supply shortages and adverse weather conditions impacting key producers like Ghana and Ivory Coast. Together, these nations produce about 60% of the world's cocoa, making their challenges pivotal to global market dynamics. In April 2024, cocoa prices surged to nearly $10,000 per ton, a record high due to reduced harvest and increasing demand. The 2023-2024 season is projected to have a global deficit of 475,000 tons, a sharp rise from previous estimates. This deficit has been exacerbated by climate change, El Nino-driven weather patterns, and fungal diseases like black pod disease, which have collectively slashed yields by as much as 40 to 50%. To cushion farmers against these challenges, Cocoa Board increased the guaranteed price for cocoa from $3,000 to $3,100 per 64 kilogram bag. This represents a minor increase of 3.3% over the previous rate, and now in September for the 2024-2025 crop season. However, many farmers face high production costs and limited access to financing, which dilute the benefit of rising prices.
Trade volumes in the secondary bond market increased significantly last week ahead of the general elections. Well, this rose by approximately 31 percentage points to reach 715 million cedis, a business desk report.
The number of trades remain limited, primarily concentrated in the short and belly segment of the curve. Notably, maturities from 2027 to 2030 accounted for 56.49% of total trades, with a yield to maturity of 23.21%, while maturities from 2031 to 2024 represented 43.31% of the total volume traded. This is to a yield to maturity of 5.27%. Looking ahead, analysts expect activity in the secondary bond market to improve, particularly in T-bills, following a relatively peaceful election outcome. They believe Ghana's successful election is likely to positively influence market sentiment among foreign investors in the near term.
Savings and loans companies are asking public sector workers to pay back funds lent to them. According to the Chief Executive Officer of Opportunity International Savings and Loans, Kwame Owusu-Boateng, savings and loans companies are working to reduce the high non-performing loans rate through various utilization processes. Well, he spoke to Joy Business at a workshop organized by Opportunity Savings and Loans.
The workshop aimed at empowering young entrepreneurs with the tools and knowledge to access startup loans. The innovative youth startup loan combines loans with free financial and non-financial advisory services and business skills training to support young clients. Chief Executive Officer of Opportunity International Savings and Loans, Kwame Owusu-Boateng, called for more collaboration to help reduce the non-performing loans within the space. He also urged entrepreneurs to be resilient in their line of operations.
We're having this purposely to ensure that startup businesses have access to finance. You realize that there's a lot of unemployed youth, right, from graduates, STEM, artisans who have the skills but don't have access to funding. And as an institution that is very much focused on impact and transformation of individuals, especially clients at the bottom of the pyramid, we believe that coming up with this innovation will enable us to be able to reach out to such youth that are not part of the formal financial system. The banks or the savings and loans companies have a role to play with their credit methodology, the client segmentation, how the products are designed, pricing and everything. They all impact. Even how the loan is structured is impacted or can impact the non-performing loan ratio. But the clients also have an obligation that when I borrow from a financial institution, I'll pay back. The money is for somebody. The banks or the savings and loan companies have to acquire the money from somebody, either from depositors or borrow from banks and lenders. And therefore, if you don't pay, you are reducing the strength of the institution. Therefore, it's a two-way thing. We have our role to play in structuring the products in a way that is affordable, that is convenient, that enables the clients to pay. But the clients also have a moral responsibility to pay back so that we can multiply the impact of what we do.
A representative from GIZ Ghana also explained the rationale behind the collaboration.
No, I mean, micro, small, medium enterprises are the backbone of the Ghanaian economy, and they face at the same time a lot of challenges and hurdles actually to either establish their business or even scale their business. And especially for young entrepreneurs, for startups, it's even more difficult because they don't have a proof of concept yet really. And that is why we support this particular initiative, because this is a special program dedicated to young entrepreneurs, to startups, and for the youth.
The youth startup loan offering comes with an affordable interest rate, no processing fees, flexible repayment options, and adaptable collateral requirements.
And before we go, Programs Manager for the Orange Corners Ghana, an acceleration program to support SMEs, Eugene Eluake, has reiterated the need to provide business development support and access to finance to local entrepreneurs. He explains this is key to ensure diversity within the Ghanaian economy. He spoke to Joy Business at the Gizal Pitch Day.
For us at Growth Africa, I believe that what is new is the depth and wealth of experience we have gathered around the African continent that we brought to this program, and then most importantly, the hands-on approach we've taken, working directly with the entrepreneurs and then the partners. So that has really brought a new dimension to the way we run the program. Some other key interventions we've done is to be much more collaborative and work deeply with the fund manager, and also bring the entrepreneurs and the fund manager into a better relationship where there is clarity of what is expected of them, and then there is also a hands-on effort to if I may say, meet the deliverables or deliver on those expectations. For a long time, there has always been that bit of divide between what entrepreneurs think is what investors are looking for and what investors think entrepreneurs should bring to the table.
Thanks so much for being part of Business Live for today. I am Pius Kojo Baka. We have more stories for you when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business.